So you guys will have to excuse my voice. I've had a cold this week, so I kind of sound like an adolescent teenager at the moment. But anyhow, so yeah, this factory intake. Nissan's got this huge Helmholtz chamber here, resonator chamber to basically kill any induction sound whatsoever. And if you look at the exhaust system on this thing, it's got a total of about 6 different sound deadening devices in it. You got a couple of catalytic converters, obviously, and then those go into 2 mufflers, and then that goes into a giant muffler. It's the size of a trash can. And then it's got another resonator at the tailpipe. So they've gone to great lengths to make this truck as quiet as they possibly can. And I have to say, this is probably the most quiet truck I've ever driven. I mean, when you're going down the road, you literally cannot hear this thing run. And personally, I hate that. I know some people probably love that. I hate it. I like to drive by ear. I like to hear what my driveline and drivetrain is doing. I like to hear what the engine is doing. I think it makes you a better driver when you can hear what the mechanical devices on the vehicle are doing. You can hear the RPM. You can kind of tell by ear what gear you're in, or if it's shifting around, or whatever the case might be. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but I just like to hear the engine. And I don't really want to do an exhaust kit on this truck right now. I want to do something that's easily reversible since it's a lease. So I decided to try a cold air intake kit. So I picked up a really nice one from Z1 Off-Road. They do stuff just for Nissan, basically. They're Nissan specialists. So it should be a pretty good kit. The dyno numbers that they posted on the website show a pretty good gain in power throughout the curve. So a little bit of a power gain is a good thing. But I'm hoping that it'll also, give the truck a good sound without being obnoxious inside the cabin. And what I'm curious about is whether or not it will reduce the temperatures going into the intake. The sensors here, obviously. The factory intake looks like actually comes into the fender over here and draws air from inside the fender. So, and obviously it's all sealed up here. So anyway, let's put that Z1 Off-Road intake kit on the truck, and then we'll do a little testing using the scan gauge and just see what the intake air temperatures look like compared to ambient outside temperatures with that particular intake on there. Should be interesting. Let's get started. All right, so first things first, let's go ahead and unplug the sensor over here. And it just has a little push tab that you push in and squeeze, and then it pops right out. But it looks like it's physically attached to the air box also. So we're gonna have to get the cat claw so we can pop that plastic retainer out of there. So this thing's putting up a little bit of a fight, actually. Looks like what you really have to do is squeeze these tabs. It's not your, there we go. This thing is shaped, I don't know if you can see it. You hold it up like this, it's shaped like a Christmas tree. But basically you're gonna squeeze those 2 parts together and then it'll pop out. So once you figure out what you're doing, it's not so bad. Now, obviously we gotta take the sensor out because we got to reuse that in the new intake. So looks like those are going to require a Phillips screwdriver. Let me go grab a Phillips. I like how you've got a nice little tray here. I don't know if that's what they actually designed it for, but it works perfect for a little tool tray. If you're working under here, you got a place to put things. So we got 2 Phillips screws here, and looks like I'm going to have to be very careful not to lose these because they are very small little screws, and they've got a couple of washers on them, and it looks like they would be really easy to drop. So be very careful with these, and there we go. And there's the sensor. Obviously, we don't want to damage this sensor or get any contamination in there, so I'm going to set it aside carefully. All right, and now we should be ready to start taking this ductwork off. Now you can use a flat blade screwdriver. You can also use an 8mm. Since I've got a flat blade right here, I'm going to go ahead and do this. But you can use an 8mm on these, which is actually easier. It's really kind of the way to do it, to be honest. Go ahead and get this loose, and then there's one over here on this throttle body. It's just got one over here on the throttle body that we need to deal with. And then at that point, it'll pop right off the throttle body, but we're going to go ahead and use our Phillips to remove these screws. These actually, well, I just broke the tip of my screwdriver. All right, so in that case, I am going to go get a socket for these. But these, what they do is they physically hold the air intake in there. So you got a couple of them right here. And then it looks like there's a couple of them over here to hold the air box in too. So we got to take those out so that we can lift this whole thing out of here. All right, it looks like a 10mm. It's going to help if you just lift this foam piece up off of here and get it out of the way for a minute. These are a 10mm, looks like, so I get my nifty electric ratchet out here. That's the only way to do that. I don't think there's a job I've done yet where I haven't been thankful for this electric ratchet. This thing is awesome. Go over here and get this one by the air box. I've also kind of noticed that anytime I come out here to work, the cat always starts wanting attention. She wants to be on camera, I guess. She's rubbing my leg right now. Okay, so now what we're going to do, take our pliers and squeeze this clamp, move it back so that we can take the hose. Use your pliers to loosen it up, and then you can take your hose off of there. So you're going to reattach this hose onto the new intake also. And at this point, we should be able just to take the whole kit and caboodle up out of the truck. So I'm going to go unbox the new one and show that to you, and then we'll start popping it in here. And let me go ahead and get this air box out. So there's first piece. And then let's see how the air box comes out. Not very easily, because there's a bolt down here in the bottom. You can see it, just standing here, you can see it. There's one bolt down there. And it looks like that I'm not going to be able to get it with a ratchet, unless you can go through the box and get it. And no, you cannot. But it's a good thing that I took the air filter out, because there's a bolt right here that I would not have seen. Uh-oh. I'm going to have to get a longer extension for this one. There we go. So it looks like that there is, I'm going to have to get a wrench to do the third one, but there's a total of 3 bolts that hold the air box into the truck. So, and here is yet another hose. Not really sure what this one's for. It's not hooked up to anything. I don't know if you guys can see that on the camera. That one's just attached to the air box and it's not hooked up to anything. Almost as if that's some kind of a vent. That could be a vent for the front differential. Maybe they've got it terminated up here, attached to the air box, but there's no cap on the end of it though. It's just wide open, which is very weird. Huh. That's strange. I'm gonna have to look at that and see what that is actually for. So anyway, let me go ahead and get a wrench, take this air box out, and then we'll look at the new one. I'll be right back. All right, so you can see all the stuff that the Z1 kit comes with. Here's your sealed off air box. I like the fact that it has a dry filter. I don't like oiled filters. The tube has a good provision here for your mass airflow sensor. You got all your grommets and brackets and hose clamps, pretty much everything you need here. And it looks like it should be pretty straightforward, so let's start putting it all together. So first thing I'm going to do, I think, is kind of lay this in here and just see how she's going to fit. Here is the grommet that, let me move this out of the way so you can see what I'm doing here. So here's the grommet that's going to go into the fender area. Hopefully that air box will stay there and not fall on me. So they've got this designed to where you can sort of snap it in place. It's rubber, so you got to be careful with it and kind of go around here and make sure it all fits good and snug, but I think I've almost got it. There we go. So it just kind of fits. See, it's all nice and snug. That's perfect. And then I'm going to assume that we're going to have to put our grommet in the bottom here so that we can mount the air box. So let me go do that. This is, by the way, the differential breather. I traced it back down to the differential. So I'm going to have to see what's going on here. It looks like to me that there's a cap missing there. There should be a cap to keep insects and things like that from going down into your differential. That's really weird. So I'm going to have to see if I can find something that's maybe missing there. Let me go find a grommet so I can bolt that down. So I think I finally got the air box in. I ran into a little bit of confusion with this piece right here. Don't have any idea where that's supposed to go. It looks like it fits the fender over here, but I don't know. I can't figure out how it's supposed to work. It won't fit onto the air box. It doesn't look like it actually pops into any provisions on the fender. There's no instructions at all with this kit. So I really don't know what this is for. And with just the rubber part, it seems to have sealed off pretty good. So I think I'm just gonna like not use this. Skip that part. So now we're ready to start putting the filter and the air box in here. Got to put the mass airflow sensor in, and I got to put that hose back on here, and then we'll be ready to start putting it all together. All right, so I ran into a little bit of difficulty, and I want to show you this. So this is the factory air box, and here are a couple of the bolts that held it into the truck. You're going to have to reuse these. They didn't send me any new ones, so you got to reuse them. But if you start looking at these and trying to figure out how to take them out, especially this one where it's kind of back in this pocket and you can't get to it. So you start looking at this and you're like, how in the world do you get these out? Well, I found the easiest thing to do is to take them out from the bottom. I just used a wrench and put up under that washer and pull them out from the bottom. That's about the only way I could find to get them out. So hopefully this will now work a lot better, because these are the ones that fit the threaded holes that are down in the body of the truck here. So now maybe we can carry on. All right, finally. Okay, so it's just a matter of using the correct bolts on this. So I've got it sealed off against the fender over here. I've got 2 bolts in there holding the box in. I have my mass airflow sensor in. I had to go find an Allen wrench in my toolbox to use because, surprise, surprise, they didn't give me one. So I had to go find my own Allen wrench, and it took a while to find one that would actually fit. I don't really like the way this looks. I think I'm going to have to check this periodically to make sure that these 2 little screws don't come loose, but I really wish they had included some directions with this thing, but they didn't. There's a little plate and there's a rubber seal that I assume you're supposed to sandwich in here with the sensor. And of course you got arrows for your airflow, so make sure your arrows are pointing the right direction toward the engine when you put this in, but I don't know. That's the best I can figure to do with it. So now we're going to need a couple of additional seals here. And we're going to need our hose. Would have been really nice to have some directions. So this big seal obviously is going to go in your box here. And then you got the smaller one here that's going to go over here by the throttle body. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this one on. Get it mounted up. Let's get a couple of hose clamps. We'll go ahead and put a hose clamp on here. Boy, these are not even attached yet. So let me get one around here like so. Turn it to where I can get to it. Go ahead and thread it just a little bit. And then we can, since they're already loose, I'm not going to worry about putting that one on just yet. All right, so I guess now we can put the filter on here. And this is really the only other part that they gave me with this kit. So go ahead and slide this dry air filter on. Make sure that it's seated really well. And I'm going to go ahead and tighten this down. I don't see any reason not to. Well, I say that, but I may be getting ahead of myself. I'm doing this on the fly so that you guys can see what a pain in the rear end this is without any directions. So here's this seal that obviously goes in the air box, but there's no arrows on it. There's no directions to tell me which way to put it in. So I don't know. I'm going to guess that it's going to go like this, but I'm not 100% sure. So let's put it in and try it. And we'll find out for sure. Now these things are a pain because you've got this little rib here that you have to line up going all the way around. Let me try to see how this fits over the filter. On second thought, it may be that it needs to go like this with the rib inside the box. That may be. Yeah, it looks like that will actually end up working out better. So let's do that. Let's put the rib inside the box. Okay, so I got that seal in there. Now we're in business. I'm going to push this in, and what happens is the outside of the filter has a bit of a compression fit against that seal, and that's what keeps everything sealed off properly. But it looks like it's going to be a little bit difficult now to push this into where I need it to be over here at the throttle body. Everything is a real tight fit here, see? Kind of mismatched here now, so yeah, interesting. Let me fight with this for a minute, try to get this in. We'll be done. Okay, so I'm finally ready to button this thing up and get this done. So honestly, the fitment over here, I'm not real happy with it. There's no instructions, so I don't know what to do with this piece, which obviously integrates into the fender somehow, but would have been nice if they had showed you how to do that. And then over here where the filter is supposed to slide through this big seal, well, it's not really sealing off very well. Let me get the camera a little closer so I can show you what's going on down in here. Woo, it's a little bit too far. Let's back up just a hair. All right, so you can see the seal right in there and how it slides around the filter. Well, it doesn't go all the way around like that. Like if you could see over here, it's hard to show on camera, but it's just not sealing off very well. and it's real loose in there too. If you come over here on the back side, you can see how it's kind of loose in there. I don't know. I'm just not real happy with the way that works. I think they could have designed that a little bit better, but oh well. I guess as the old saying goes, it is what it is, right? I'm going to try this air intake kit out anyway. So these are pretty snug. I'm going to tighten these down. Probably ought to get a 8mm on these. Be a lot easier to get them snug. This one's already tight. So I'll get the 8mm out in just a minute and do that. All right, so now I can plug the mass airflow sensor back in. So that's done. And they give you an extension hose here. Move this out of the way. So this one's obviously not long enough to reach over there. So it looks like what they have done is they've given, I'm losing some tools here. They've given a whole new hose. So I'll just take this hose off and find my pliers. Looks like it's going to be a real fun time getting back here to this clamp. It wasn't too terribly bad. There we go. And we'll have to obviously reuse these clamps. I'm not 100% happy with the engineering. Woo! There went one of them. The engineering on this kit. I feel like that they could have made this a little bit easier to do, to be honest. With just a little simple tweak here and there, they could have made this kit a whole lot easier to do. All right, got that one on. Still got to put my clamp on there. Definitely going to need some pliers. I'm using needle nose, which is not ideal. I really ought to go get my real pliers out to do this. In fact, I think I'm going to have to because I keep dropping it. So there's what the kit looks like. See the Z1 off-road emblem there. I still have to buy a couple of, well, I need to get one more clamp because I dropped one and I can't find it, of course, but it's supposed to have a clamp here and one back there. I'll go pick one up here in a little while. I got this tightened down over here. They give you a silicone adapter over there. So anyway, it feels pretty snug. I'm still not 100% happy with the way all this works over here. It seems a little bit cheesy over here. I don't know how well that will really seal off, but I guess the main thing is the filter is sealed off to the pipe. So it's functional and it's safe. So that's not a big deal. As long as this rubber seal kind of keeps water and stuff from pouring in there. I guess that's the only point to that really. And then of course it's got that rubber grommet that goes into the fender over there. So it's all hooked up. It should work okay. All we got to do now is test it. I'm curious to see what the temperatures are going to be, intake temperatures, what the induction sound is going to sound like. That doesn't look too good right there either, does it? Almost looks like some of the glue is coming apart or something. I don't know. Anyway, it's a relatively inexpensive kit compared to a lot of them on the market. So I can live with a few little things here and there. But all in all, it doesn't look too bad. Installation was a little more difficult than most of them I've done, but it's not too terribly bad, I guess. Let's go try it out. So, got the temperature at 69 this morning, intake temperature showing 75. I just pulled into the hardware store though. So it's been running about 4 degrees, about 4 degrees spread, just like the factory intake. So the temperature of the air coming into the engine with this aftermarket intake looks like it's going to be exactly the same. With the engine up to operating temp, it's going to run, you know, pretty much exactly where the factory intake was at. So not really getting any cooler air going into the engine with this aftermarket intake. But then again, I didn't really expect there to be a lot of difference because the factory intake's actually pretty good as far as where it draws the air from. Now I will say there's a little bit more induction noise. It sounds a little bit better, especially under wide open throttle. So you can hear the engine working a little bit better. Also, it feels like that the engine's got a little bit more torque. It's really hard to tell. I need to let the engine kind of adapt to this new airflow, but it seems to be holding lower gears longer. That's how I can tell. It's not upshifting as fast. It's kind of holding, you know, some of those. Let me reverse that. I just said that the wrong way. It's holding the taller gears, you know, the upper gears in the transmission. It's holding onto those longer, and it's not downshifting as quickly as it was before. So you know, I'll give it some more time, but it seems like it's doing a pretty good job so far. And you know, any little gain helps, right? So I'm pretty happy with that so far.